Danny Cole wiped the grease from his hands and looked out the small window of the maintenance corridor. The Sci-Fi orbital station floated before him like a flower made of crystal and light. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen in his 28 years of life. He was just a maintenance engineer aboard the human, diplomatic vessel Starbound HFY. His job was simple. He fixed things that broke. He kept the air flowing and the water running. While the diplomats in their fancy clothes talked about treaties and trade agreements, Danny crawled through tight spaces and replaced broken parts. The summit between humans and the Sci-Fi Empire had been going on for 3 days now. Everyone said it was important. The Sci-Fi were one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Getting their friendship could change everything for humanity. Danny did not care much about politics. He cared about doing his job well and going home safely. His communicator beeped. It was his supervisor, Chief Engineer Marcus Hall. "Danny, I need you to check the connecting corridor between our ship and Section 7 of the station. Some sensors are showing strange readings." "On my way, Chief," Danny replied. He gathered his tools and walked toward the connecting corridor. This part of the station was quiet. Most of the activity was happening in the main halls where the diplomats were meeting. Here, there were only a few Sci-Fi workers and some human crew members passing through. The Sci-Fi were tall and graceful. Their skin had a slight blue color, and their eyes were large and bright like polished gems. They moved like dancers, every step smooth and perfect. Danny always felt clumsy around them. He reached the corridor and began his inspection. The walls were made of some kind of transparent material that let him see the stars outside. It was beautiful, but also a little scary. Only a thin barrier separated him from the endless void of space. Danny checked his scanner. The readings were strange. There was stress on the structural supports that should not be there. He frowned and moved deeper into the corridor. That was when he heard the sound. It was a sharp crack, like ice breaking on a frozen lake. Danny looked up and saw lines spreading across the ceiling of an observation deck just ahead. The transparent material was failing, and someone was inside. A young Sci-Fi female stood near the window, looking out at the stars. She had not heard the crack. She did not see the danger. Danny did not think. He ran. "Get out of there," he shouted. The Sci-Fi turned, her large eyes wide with surprise. Another crack split the air. A piece of the ceiling broke away and fell toward her. Danny reached her just in time. He grabbed her arm and pulled her away from the falling debris. But the damage was spreading fast. The whole section was going to decompress. He saw the emergency controls on the wall. If he could seal the bulkhead, they would be safe. But the system was not responding. The power was failing. Danny pulled open the control panel with his bare hands. His fingers moved fast, connecting wires and bypassing broken circuits. Behind him, he could hear the hiss of air escaping through the cracks. Come on, he muttered. The Sci-Fi stood frozen, watching him with those bright eyes. She looked young. Maybe she was important. Maybe she was nobody. It did not matter to Danny. She was a person who needed help. The bulkhead began to close, but slowly. Too slowly. A large piece of the window shattered, and the vacuum of space began to pull at them. Danny grabbed the Sci-Fi and pushed her toward the closing bulkhead. Go, now. She stumbled through the gap. Danny tried to follow, but the pull of space was strong. He felt himself being dragged backward. With all his strength, he grabbed the edge of the bulkhead and pulled himself through. A piece of flying debris cut his arm, and another struck his back. Pain exploded through his body. The bulkhead sealed shut behind him. Danny lay on the floor, breathing hard. His arm was bleeding, and his back felt like fire. But he was alive. They were both alive. The Sci-Fi female knelt beside him. Her hands hovered over his wounds, uncertain. You saved me, she said. Her voice was soft like music. "You are injured because of me." "I will be fine," Danny said. He tried to smile. "Are you okay?" "Yes, because of you." She looked at him with an expression he could not read. "What is your name, human?" "Danny. Danny Cole." "Danny Cole," she repeated, as if memorizing it. "I will not forget this." Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Silithary guards appeared, their faces tense with worry. When they saw the female, relief washed over them. "Princess, are you harmed?" Danny blinked. "Princess?" The guards rushed to her side, checking her for injuries. One of them looked at Danny with suspicion, but the female raised her hand. "This human saved my life. See that he receives medical care immediately." The guards bowed their heads. One of them helped Danny to his feet. His vision was getting blurry from blood loss. "Thank you," the female said again. Then the guards led her away, and she was gone. Danny was taken to the medical bay aboard the Starboard Horizon. The doctors treated his wounds and told him he was lucky to be alive. He had a deep cut on his arm and several bruises on his back, but nothing was broken. Captain Lara Bennett came to see him. She was a tall woman with kind eyes and a serious face. "I heard what you did," she said. "That was very brave, Danny." "I just did what anyone would do," Danny replied. The captain smiled. "Not everyone would run toward a decompressing section to save a stranger. You should be proud." Danny just shrugged. He was tired, and his body hurt. He wanted to sleep and forget about the whole thing. The station-wide alert was called off. The damaged section was sealed and marked for repair. Life returned to normal, or as normal as it could be, during a diplomatic summit. Danny closed his eyes and let sleep take him. He thought the incident would be forgotten in a few days. He thought his life would go back to the way it was before. He was very wrong. Somewhere in the royal quarters of the Silithary station, the young female he had saved was speaking with her mother. And what she said would change Danny's life forever. But for now, he slept peacefully, unaware of what was coming. Danny woke up the next morning feeling sore but better. The doctors had done good work. His arm was wrapped in clean bandages, and the pain in his back had become a dull ache. His friend and co-worker, a young technician named Chris, brought him breakfast. "You are famous now," Chris said with a grin. "Everyone is talking about the engineer who saved someone from a decompression." "I'm not famous," Danny said. "I just did my job." "Your job is to fix pipes, not to be a hero." Chris laughed. "But seriously, good work. The chief said you can rest today. No duties." Danny was grateful for that. He ate his breakfast slowly and thought about the Silithary female he had saved. The guards had called her princess. Was she really royalty? It seemed impossible that someone so important would be alone in that observation deck. He decided not to think about it too much. It was not his business. But the universe had other plans. Around midday, Captain Bennett came to the medical bay again. This time, her face was strange. She looked confused and a little worried. "Danny, how are you feeling?" she asked. "Better, Captain. I can return to duty tomorrow. That might have to wait." She paused. "You have been summoned to the Silithary royal court." Danny stared at her. "What?" "The Silithary queen herself has requested your presence." Immediately, Danny's heart began to beat faster. "Why? Did I do something wrong?" "I do not know. Ambassador Perry will accompany you. She is just as confused as we are." The captain put a hand on his shoulder. "Whatever this is about, just be respectful and honest. You will be fine." Danny was given a clean uniform and taken to the Silithary station. Ambassador Grace Perry met him at the airlock. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent her whole life studying alien cultures. "Do you have any idea why they want to see you?" she asked as they walked. No, ma'am. I just saved someone from the accident yesterday. That is all. The ambassador nodded slowly. The person you saved. Do you know who she was? The guards called her Princess. Ambassador Perry stopped walking. Her face went pale. Princess Keleth? The Queen's only daughter? Danny felt cold. I did not know her name. Oh my. The ambassador took a deep breath. This is either very good or very bad. Come, we should not keep the Queen waiting. The Sci-Fi royal court was the most beautiful place Danny had ever seen. The walls were made of white stone that glowed with soft light. Tall pillars reached up to a ceiling covered in paintings of stars and planets. Hundreds of Sci-Fi nobles stood in perfect rows. Their clothes shining like jewels. At the far end of the room sat Queen Velara on a throne of silver and crystal. She was tall and proud, with eyes that seemed to look right through Danny. Beside her stood the young female from yesterday, Princess Keleth. Danny's mouth went dry. He had never felt so small in his life. The room fell silent as he walked forward. Every eye was on him. He could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Ambassador Perry walked beside him, her face calm, but her hands tied at her sides. They stopped before the throne and bowed. "Rise," said the Queen. Her voice was deep and powerful. It filled the room like thunder. Danny stood straight and tried to look brave. It was not easy. Queen Velara studied him for a long moment. Her eyes moved over his bandaged arm, his simple uniform, his nervous face. "You are the human who saved my daughter," she said. It was not a question. "Yes, Your Majesty," Danny replied. His voice was shaky. "Tell me what happened." "In your own words." Danny told the story simply. He described the strange readings, the cracking ceiling, and his decision to run toward the danger instead of away from it. He did not make himself sound brave. He just told the truth. When he finished, the Queen was silent. The whole court was silent. Then Queen Velara stood. She was very tall, almost 2 heads taller than Danny. She walked down the steps from her throne and stopped right in front of him. "You risked your life for my daughter," she said. "You did not know who she was. You expected no reward. You simply acted to save her." "Yes, Your Majesty. I would do the same for anyone. That is what makes it meaningful." The Queen's eyes softened for just a moment. Then her voice became formal again. "By the ancient laws of the Sci-Fi, a life debt has been created. My daughter's life belongs to you, and such a debt can only be repaid in one way." Danny did not understand. He looked at Ambassador Perry, but she seemed just as confused. Queen Velara raised her voice so everyone in the court could hear. "Human, the person whose life you rescued yesterday is my daughter, and you will marry her." The words hit Danny like a physical blow. He could not move. He could not speak. He could barely breathe. The court erupted in whispers. The human delegation stood frozen with shock. Ambassador Perry's mouth fell open. Danny looked at Princess Keleth. Her face was red with embarrassment. She would not meet his eyes. "Your Majesty," Ambassador Perry said carefully, "this is a great honor, but humans have different customs regarding marriage. Perhaps we could discuss." "There is nothing to discuss," the Queen said firmly. "The law is clear. The debt must be paid." Danny finally found his voice. "Your Majesty, I am grateful for the honor, but I cannot accept. I do not even know the princess. Humans believe marriage should be based on love, not debt." The Queen looked at him with genuine confusion. "You refuse? You would insult my daughter? You would insult me?" "No," Danny said quickly. "I do not mean any insult. This is our most sacred tradition," the Queen continued. "To refuse is to reject everything we stand for. It would be seen as an act of hostility against the Sci-Fi Empire." The weight of her words pressed down on Danny. He understood now. This was not just about him. This was about all of humanity. If he refused, he could destroy years of careful diplomacy. He could start a conflict between two civilizations, but if he accepted, he would be trapped in a marriage he never wanted. Danny looked at the princess again. This time, she met his eyes. In her gaze, he saw something unexpected. She was just as trapped as he was. The meeting in the throne room ended without a decision. Ambassador Perry managed to convince the Queen to give them one day to discuss the matter. It was clear the Queen was not happy about it, but she agreed. Danny was taken to a private chamber in the Sci-Fi Palace. The room was beautiful, with soft lights and comfortable furniture, but he felt like a prisoner. Guards stood outside his door, polite but firm. He sat on a chair and put his head in his hands. How had his life become so complicated? Yesterday, he was just a maintenance engineer. Today, he was at the center of an interstellar crisis. Ambassador Perry came to see him an hour later. She looked tired and worried. "This is a very difficult situation," she said. "I have spoken with our leaders on Earth. They are concerned." "What do they want me to do?" Danny asked. "They want to find a solution that does not damage our relationship with the Sci-Fi. But they also do not want to force you into a marriage against your will." She sighed. "The truth is, they do not know what to do." Danny laughed bitterly. "So, I am on my own." "Not entirely. I will help you as much as I can." The ambassador sat down across from him. "Tell me honestly, Danny, what do you want?" "I want to go back to fixing pipes and forget this ever happened." "I understand. But that is not possible now. The whole galaxy knows about this. News travels fast. You are the human who saved the Sci-Fi princess. And now you are the human who might insult the Sci-Fi Empire." Danny closed his eyes. The weight of it all was crushing. There was a knock at the door. A Sci-Fi guard entered and bowed. "The Princess Calith requests a private meeting with the human." Danny and the ambassador exchanged looks. "I will go," Danny said. "Maybe we can figure something out together." The guard led Danny through long hallways to a garden inside the palace. It was filled with strange flowers and trees that glowed with soft colors. In the center stood Princess Calith, alone. She turned when she heard him approach. Without her royal dress, she looked younger and less formal. She wore simple clothes, and her face showed real emotion. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Did I have a choice?" Danny replied. He did not mean to sound harsh, but he was tired. The princess lowered her eyes. "I suppose not. I am sorry for all of this." Danny softened. It was not her fault. "You did not ask for this either." "No, I tried to tell my mother that it was wrong. That humans see things differently." But she would not listen. Calith walked to a stone bench and sat down. "My mother is not cruel. She truly believes she is honoring you. In our culture, this would be the greatest gift possible." Danny sat beside her, keeping a respectful distance. In human culture, marriage is a choice. Two people meet, they spend time together, they fall in love. Then they decide to marry. Forcing someone to marry is considered wrong. Calith nodded slowly. "I have studied human culture. I know this. I find it beautiful, actually. The idea that love must be earned, not arranged." She smiled sadly. "But my mother is old in her ways. She does not understand." They sat in silence for a moment. The glowing flowers swayed in a gentle breeze. "What will happen if I refuse?" Danny asked. "My mother will see it as a great insult. The nobles will demand action. Our two peoples might become enemies." Calith's voice was heavy. "I do not want that. I do not want war because of me, and if I accept, you will be trapped in a life you did not choose. You will live here, among people you do not know, following rules you do not understand." She looked at him with honest eyes. I do not want that either. You deserve better. You saved my life. You should not be punished for it. Danny felt respect growing for this princess. She was not selfish. She cared about what was right. There has to be another way, he said. Caliph thought for a moment. Then her eyes brightened. There might be. There is an old tradition. Very old. The trials of worth. What is that? Long ago, when a life debt was created, the debtor could choose to prove themselves through trials instead of immediate bonding. If they completed the trials, they earned the right to choose their own path. Danny leaned forward. You mean I could complete these trials and then refuse the marriage without causing insult? Yes, the trials are difficult. They were designed for HFY warriors. But if you complete them, you will have proven your worth in the eyes of our people. You will have earned respect. And then, whatever you choose, no one can call it an insult. Hope flickered in Danny's chest. Will your mother accept this? It is ancient law. Even she cannot refuse it. Caliph stood up. But Danny, you must understand. The trials are dangerous. No human has ever attempted them. Many HFY have failed. Danny stood as well. What choice do I have? Accept a marriage I do not want, or start a war between our peoples. At least this way, I have a chance to control my own fate. Caliph studied his face. You are brave. I saw it when you saved me. I see it now. I am scared, Danny admitted. But being scared does not mean I should stop trying. The princess smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her. Humans are strange. You are small and weak compared to many species. But there is something inside you that makes you strong. We call it stubbornness, Danny said. Caliph laughed softly. I think I like humans. They returned to the main palace together. Ambassador Perry was waiting, looking anxious. We have a plan, Danny said. I will undertake the trials of worth. The ambassador looked confused. Caliph explained the tradition quickly. This could work, Perry said slowly. It honors their customs while giving us a way out. She looked at Danny with concern. But, are you sure? These trials sound dangerous. I am sure, Danny said. I would rather face danger than lose my freedom. The next morning, Danny and Caliph presented their proposal to Queen Delara. The queen listened with a serious expression. The trials of worth, she said slowly. I had not considered this. It is an ancient tradition, rarely used. It is still valid under HFY law, Caliph said respectfully. The human wishes to prove himself. The queen looked at Danny. You understand that these trials are difficult? You could be injured. You could die. I understand, Danny said firmly. For a long moment the queen was silent. Then she nodded. Very well. I accept your proposal. In 3 days, you will begin the trials of worth. If you succeed, you will earn the right to choose your path. If you fail, the original arrangement stands. Danny bowed his head. Thank you, Your Majesty. As he left the throne room, he felt a mixture of relief and fear. He had bought himself a chance. But now he had to survive trials designed for warriors, and he was just an engineer who fixed pipes. The proving grounds were located beneath the HFY Palace. They were ancient, built thousands of years ago, when the HFY still fought wars with swords and strength. Now they were used only for ceremonies and rare occasions like this one. Danny stood at the entrance, wearing simple clothes provided by the HFY. No tools, no equipment. Just himself. Thousands of spectators filled the viewing platforms above. HFY nobles, workers, and common citizens had come to watch. Word had spread quickly. A human was attempting the trials of worth. Most of them expected entertainment. They expected to see the small, fragile human fail within minutes. Representatives from other alien species had also come to watch. They whispered among themselves and pointed at Danny with amusement. Humans were new to the galaxy. They were considered weak and primitive compared to older civilizations. Danny tried to ignore them all. He focused on what was ahead. Queen Velara sat on a raised platform with Princess Kelith beside her. The Queen's face showed no emotion, but Kelith looked worried. She met Danny's eyes and nodded slightly. A small gesture of support. The trials of worth consist of 3 challenges, announced a Silithary official. The trial of strength, the trial of intellect, the trial of endurance. The challenger must complete all 3 to earn the right of choice. Danny took a deep breath. His hand was shaking, but he forced them to be still. Let the first trial begin. Guards led Danny into a large chamber. In the center was a massive stone block, easily 10 times his weight. Ancient markings covered its surface. The trial of strength, the official announced. The challenger must move this sacred stone from one circle to another. Danny looked at the 2 circles painted on the ground. They were about 20 meters apart. The stone sat in the first circle. The Silithary in the audience laughed quietly. A human moving that stone? Impossible. Even many Silithary warriors had failed this trial. Danny walked around the stone slowly. He studied its shape, its position, its weight distribution. The Silithary watched him with confusion. Why was he not trying to push it? Danny knelt and examined the floor. It was smooth, polished stone. Low friction. That was good. Then he noticed something else. The floor was not completely flat. There was a very slight slope, barely visible, leading toward the second circle. The ancient Silithary who built this trial were clever. They knew that pure strength was not everything. Danny removed his outer shirt and placed it under one edge of the stone. Then he found a loose piece of wood near the wall, probably left from some old construction. He wedged it under the stone at an angle. The audience fell silent. What was the human doing? Danny pushed down on the wooden lever with all his weight. The stone shifted slightly, rising just a tiny bit on one side. At that moment, Danny kicked his shirt further under, creating a small ramp. He moved to the other side and pushed. The stone was still impossibly heavy, but with the reduced friction and the slight slope helping him, it moved. Just a little. But it moved. Danny pushed again. And again. His muscles screamed in pain. Sweat poured down his face. But the stone kept moving, centimeter by centimeter, toward the second circle. The laughter stopped. The audience watched in stunned silence. It took nearly an hour. Danny's arms felt like they were on fire. His legs shook with exhaustion. But finally, the stone crossed into the second circle. The official checked the position and raised his hand. The trial of strength is complete. For a moment, there was silence. Then, somewhere in the crowd, a single Silithary began to clap. Others joined. Soon the whole chamber filled with applause. Danny could barely stand, but he managed a small bow. The second trial came next. Danny was led to a room filled with strange devices and puzzles. Screens displayed complex patterns of shapes and colors. The trial of intellect, the official announced. The challenger must solve the ancient puzzles within 1 hour. The puzzles have no single solution. The challenger must find patterns, make connections, and demonstrate wisdom. Danny studied the first puzzle. It showed a series of shapes that seemed random at first. But as he looked closer, he began to see a pattern. It was like the circuits he worked with every day. Everything was connected in ways that were not obvious at first glance. He solved the first puzzle in 5 minutes. The Silithary judges looked surprised. The second puzzle was harder. It involved 3-dimensional shapes that moved and changed. Danny had to predict how they would combine. He thought about the machines he had repaired over the years. How parts fit together. how systems worked as a whole. He solved it in 12 minutes. The third puzzle was the hardest. It was not just about logic. It required understanding of relationships, of cause and effect, of how actions created consequences. Danny thought about his life, the choices he had made, the way everything connected. He thought about the accident that had started all of this. A simple act of kindness had led to this moment. He entered his answer. The screen flashed green. Correct. The trial of intellect is complete. More applause. This time louder. The Sci-Fi were beginning to respect this small human. The third trial was the longest. Danny was taken to a winding path that stretched through dark tunnels and difficult terrain. He would have to walk for hours, facing obstacles along the way until he reached the end. The trial of endurance, the official announced. The challenger must complete the path without stopping. No rest, no food, no water. Those who give up are carried out in shame. Danny looked at the dark entrance. He was already exhausted from the first two trials. His body begged him to stop, but he thought about what waited at the end. Freedom, the right to choose his own path. He would not give up now. He entered the tunnel. The hours that followed were the hardest of Danny's life. The path climbed steep hills and dropped into cold valleys. Sharp rocks cut his feet. Narrow passages forced him to crawl on his stomach. Freezing water soaked his clothes. His legs cramped. His vision blurred. Every part of him wanted to stop, but Danny kept walking. He thought about Earth, about his family, about the simple life he had lived before all of this. He thought about the people who believed in him. Captain Bennett, Ambassador Perry, and somehow Princess Caleth. He thought about what it meant to be human. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the smartest. They were not the fastest or the most powerful, but they never gave up. When other species faced impossible odds, they calculated the chances and made logical decisions. But humans were different. Humans kept fighting even when there was no hope. They kept walking even when their bodies failed. That was their true strength. Danny lost track of time. He no longer knew if he was walking or crawling. He no longer felt pain. He was running on pure will alone. And then, suddenly, he saw light ahead. The exit. Danny stumbled forward. His legs finally gave out, and he collapsed just past the finish line. But he had crossed it. He had completed the trial. The crowd above erupted in cheers. Not polite applause this time, but genuine admiration. The small human had done the impossible. Princess Caleth was on her feet, her face bright with joy. Even Queen Valara looked impressed. Danny lay on the ground, barely conscious. Medical workers rushed to help him, but through the haze of exhaustion, he heard the official's voice. The trials of worth are complete. The human has proven himself. Danny smiled and let the darkness take him. He had won. Danny woke up in a soft bed surrounded by gentle light. For a moment, he did not know where he was. Then the memories came flooding back. The trials, the stone, the puzzles, the endless walk through darkness. He tried to sit up and groaned. Every muscle in his body ached. "Do not move too quickly," said a voice beside him. "You have been asleep for 2 days." Danny turned his head. Princess Caleth sat in a chair near his bed. She looked relieved to see him awake. "2 days?" Danny asked. His voice was rough and dry. "Your body was pushed beyond its limits." The doctor said they had never seen anyone so exhausted who was still breathing. Caleth smiled gently. "You are very stubborn, Danny Cole." Danny laughed weakly. "I have been told that before." Caleth handed him a cup of water. He drank it slowly, feeling life return to his body. "You completed the trials," she said. "You are the first human to ever do so. You are the first outsider in 300 years. Does that mean I am free?" It means you have earned the right to choose. In 1 week, when you have recovered, there will be a ceremony. My mother will ask for your decision. Whatever you choose, it will be honored." Danny nodded slowly. He had done it. He had won his freedom. But as he lay there, looking at Caliph, he felt something unexpected. A small sadness at the thought of leaving. Over the next week, Danny recovered his strength. He walked through the palace gardens. He ate meals with the human delegation, who treated him like a hero. He received messages of congratulations from Earth, but most of his time was spent with Caliph. They walked together through the beautiful halls of the palace. They talked about their worlds, their lives, their dreams. Danny told her about Earth, about the blue oceans and green forests. Caliph told him about the Sci-Fi history, about their art and music and philosophy. They were very different. Human and Sci-Fi, engineer and princess. But somehow, they understood each other. "Why did you save me that day?" Caliph asked once. "You did not know who I was. You could have died." Danny thought about it. "I did not really think about it. I just saw someone in danger. I had to help, but why?" Most species would calculate the risk first. They would ask themselves if it was worth it. Humans are not very good at calculating risks, Danny admitted. We act on feeling. We see someone hurting and we want to help. It is not always logical. Caliph smiled. "I think that is what makes humans special. You care so much about others. Even strangers. Even enemies." Danny looked at her. She was beautiful in the soft light of the garden. Her eyes were full of warmth. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. If I had not completed the trials, if I had accepted your mother's arrangement, would you have been happy?" Caliph was quiet for a moment. "I would have accepted it. It is my duty as a princess to follow our traditions." She paused. "But no, I would not have been happy. I believe marriage should mean something. It should be a choice, not an obligation. That is how humans see it too. I know." She looked at him with soft eyes. "That is why I hoped you would find another way. And you did." The day of the ceremony arrived. Danny stood in the great throne room once again. But this time, it was different. He was not nervous or afraid. He had earned his place here. The room was filled with even more people than before. News of Danny's success had spread across the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species had come to witness this moment. The human who had conquered the Sci-Fi trials. Queen Valara sat on her throne, her face serious but not unkind. She had watched Danny's performance in the trials. Something in her eyes had changed. "Danny Cole of Earth," she said, her voice carrying through the hall. "You have completed the trials of worth. You have proven yourself in strength, intellect, and endurance. You have earned the respect of the Sci-Fi people." The crowd murmured with approval. "By our ancient laws, you have earned the right to choose your path. The life that is considered satisfied through your actions. Whatever you decide now, it will be accepted with honor." The Queen leaned forward. "So I ask you, Danny Cole, what is your choice?" Danny looked around the room. He saw Ambassador Perry smiling with pride. He saw Captain Bennett standing tall among the human delegation. He saw the faces of Sci-Fi nobles who had laughed at him a week ago, but now looked at him with respect. And he saw Caliph standing beside her mother's throne, waiting. Danny took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, I am grateful for the honor you offered me. Marriage to your daughter would be a great privilege. Any man would be lucky to have such a chance." He paused. The room was completely silent. "But I cannot accept a marriage born from obligation. Humans believe that love must be chosen, not commanded. To marry someone without that choice would be wrong for both of us." Some of the nobles whispered angrily. But Danny raised his hand. However, I did not wish to simply walk away. Princess Calith is one of the most remarkable people I have ever met. She is kind, intelligent, and brave. During my time here, I have come to admire her greatly. He looked directly at Calith. She met his gaze with wide eyes. So instead of accepting or refusing, I asked for something different. I asked for the chance to court the princess properly, by human custom. Not as payment for a debt, but as two people who wish to know each other better. Danny turned back to the queen. If in time we find that we truly care for each other, then marriage might follow. If not, we will part as friends, with honor intact on both sides. This is the human way. This is what I believe is right. The room was silent for a long moment. Danny felt his heart pounding in his chest. Then Queen Velara spoke. You asked to court my daughter by your own customs. Yes, your majesty. The queen looked at Calith. Daughter? What do you say? Calith stepped forward. Her voice was clear and strong. I accept Danny's proposal. I wish to understand humans better. And I wish to understand this human most of all. Mother and daughter looked at each other. Something passed between them, something Danny could not read. Finally, Queen Velara nodded. It is unconventional, but I see wisdom in it. The life debt is satisfied. Danny Cole has proven his worth through the trials and through his honorable heart. I give my blessing to this courtship. The room erupted in applause. This time, even the nobles who had doubted him were clapping. Danny felt relief wash over him. He had found a way through. A way that honored both cultures. A way that gave everyone a choice. Calith walked down from the platform and stood before him. She was smiling. You continue to surprise me, Danny Cole. I hope that is a good thing. It is a very good thing. They walked out of the throne room together, side by side. The crowd parted for them. Some bowed. Others smiled. In the garden where they had first talked, they stopped and looked at the glowing flowers. So, what happens now? Danny asked. Now we learn about each other. We spend time together. We see what grows between us. Calith looked at him with warm eyes. Is that not how humans do it? That is exactly how we do it. She took his hand. It was strange, holding the hand of an alien princess. But it also felt right. The galaxy is watching us, Calith said. They want to see what happens between a human and a Silithary. Danny smiled. Then let us show them something good. They walked through the garden together, talking and laughing as the stars shone above them. Two people from different worlds, choosing to know each other, choosing to see what might grow from respect and kindness. It was not a fairy tale ending. There was no promise of forever. But there was something better. There was hope. And in the end, that was the most human thing of all.